Foundation Course Kabbalah, Part 2, Lesson 45. Rabbi, Michael-ben-Pesach, Portnaar. The next 3 lessons are preparatory classes for the beginning of a new year, where we start treating Etz Chaim and Zohar. It is important that we prepare ourselves so we'll see what we do and not that we swallow our tongue. The beginning of Zohar is page 128. Books of Zohar are on the site, and books of Tes, the Talmud Eser Chasfirot. This is a reference book for Etz Chaim. Also, the Uver of Ari stands on the site, excluding 2 books. The particular days of the year, what are special days, of course, first of all, the Jewish holidays, wherein are the most benign moments in terms of forces to call on those days, certain forces. These are the Jewish holidays which apply in terms of forces for every man, absolutely. Those forces which are, for example, working on that day in the universe, and there are also special days where only devotees get access to it. Because dedication means not only that it is for Kabbalists, but for everyone. But a Kabbalist should let everyone know of it. Those are, for example, the death days of great righteousness, of the great righteous. Very special souls who have so excellently corrected themselves and as directly as possible to the properties of the higher worlds have brought themselves that upon leaving of their soul, when their soul shell just fell apart, at that moment happened something amazing with those souls for the power with which they then pierce the gravitation laws, etc., and return to the destination place that leaves a very huge traces, a reshemot, and these traces are never erased, never. Why? We know from the law of the universe that nothing disappears in the spiritual, and we also know that nothing comes from above if man here did not cause it. All we have to thank also to the great righteous that we are coming more and more towards shalom, peace, come to fulfillment, only by those people. To that soul we owe that, and if we correct us as well, all mankind can thank them indirectly. Not thanks we need, but in terms of strength that we can benefit from it. And we benefit from them, and they benefit from us. Everything is interconnected. Those days are also very important, but what also is important, you must connect with the soul of such a big man. How? Desire for it. And at that time, on that day, that soul has left the earth on this day. The soul is activated here. It comes into his orbit, comes back here on earth. On this day, his soul, and then it's very good that you know what soul and which day, that you long for it, and a bit of him comes then into you, if only temporarily. If you live from that day good life, your life, very carefully, so that the soul comes in you, or a piece of it, because the soul is not like man. Certain property may come to you, just that property may come into you that with you has not been corrected, and that helps you. We have seen the structure of the worlds. The quality of the spiritual world is that the higher always wants to help the lower. Always, absolutely. Just wants to help, and that is exactly the same with the soul of man. The soul of the righteous want to always help us. In this sense, the soul of every righteous who lives and comes on the day of his death is a great thing. Therefore, Kabbalists never cry or mourn as a tzaddik, a righteous man, dies. They absolutely do not grieve, even dance. Why? His jacket is put down, and he has returned to continue to fulfill his function. He lives absolutely, only in another dimension. It is difficult to understand, that's why later more. First, learn Zohar and Ari. Then we can begin to experience, understand, and ask questions, ask the right questions. Form and content, and not just form. Form does not exist by itself. Loose form exists only in our minds, but not in the true reality. So on such a day, it's important to. That day you should use to benefit from this. To use it, if we do not, we will miss the train. Then we miss an extra dimension of that day. On the site, you will find, therefore, that calendar, not only with the Jewish holidays, but also with the other data, so that we can address ourselves to them and they can help us. Look, they're weekly, write it in your own agenda, and see what you receive extra that week. All you have to do is long for that day, to that person. I will also in due course tell you something about those people. All Kabbalists in the world think it's unprecedented what I do, that I dare do that, but I dare not. I have to do it. I have no will, not my will, but. We'll learn Zohar soon so that we will experience, because in experiencing is also the understanding. If you ask for understanding in the spiritual, it is nothing. You do not come to understand. If you experience, in the experience itself is understanding included. That is a very special way. It is impossible to explain. It will have a great impact on everyone individually and us together. What forces the enormous, rapid correction we experience while we will know nothing of Aramaic and Hebrew? No, don't worry that you do not understand. I will read it all. You have to prepare. That's very important. Technical, how we read, etc. In the last lesson, more about that. But there is something else, which is in the inner preparation. And that is something special because everything in the Kabbalah is, of course, the primary aspect is internal and not external. You must prepare yourself. You have to grow towards it. Of course, you should do the earthly things you must do, but inwardly grow. Prepare yourself for the new course for Zohar and Etz Chaim, because it is a meeting with the highest, of the highest, that you can receive in this life. We have absolutely nothing to prove to the outside world. Then you stay independent in all respects. It is important to be independent. Why? Only then you can go to meet your fulfillment. We can all learn from the ancient sages. The ancient sages say, be careful with those in power because they will use you, and then when you no longer are needed, they spit you out. Great sages prefer therefore to remain poor, and they assume no functions, for then the lower will say to the higher what to do. And you should not want that. Absolutely not. You understand, being alert is very important. Life is too precious. For how much can you be bought? To what extent stretches your faith, your trust, your desire for fulfillment? How far? What is your wish? What is your fulfillment? That's the point. How much do you want? The tree of life, Etz Chaim and Zohar. What is Zohar? Let's take a moment to consider what we're going to study. Why is Zohar not something else? How is it all ranked according to holiness? Holy means that it is eternal, that we are not afraid of the word holy. Holy is eternal, perfect, immutable. That is sacred. How is it on the ranking list of the holy qua that mankind received? Of course, that mankind received the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. That is, of course, the deepest document. The deepest, the revelation of the eternal. That was the deepest, the Torah, and then, of course, there are other. Nothing in the world in terms of the spiritual is wrong. Also, shamanism, for example, is given from above, as it were. Not from above, it is which the human being prefers. We have seen there's always what you take. Everything we study, everything that exists in the world consists of 2 aspects, inner and outer. Never forget that, because sometimes we speak of different nations, and then again, on the general or inner or outer. Always we must know what is inner and what is outer. And both are needed. The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, the most inward, the most intimate revelation, the sacred for humanity. And on that all other things come, which are also holy to the extent as casing around the Torah. Inside everything is the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, and of course afterwards also the other books, the 24 books of the Torah from prophets and writings, and above, for example, other important books, religious books such as the NT and the Quran, Buddhism, etc. Everything is given from above, but that's casing. But still, other things which are external with respect to NT, New Testament, for example, shamanism is also another form of cover around Holy of Holies. The 5 books of Moses, which is the Holy of Holies, and then other things sacred, and then less holy things with respect, again, towards something. Whenever you say something is holy or less holy, it is always in respect to something, is always relative. Everything is relative. Everything is qualitative, and do not say that it is sacred and that is not sacred. Everything that is given to mankind, to any people, is a form of sacred. And that is not sacred. Everything that is given to mankind, to any people, is a form of sacred, absolutely. So you should see, but the most pure is given to Moses, because every nation may, besides recognizing the only creative force, also have something else, a prophet. Other forces he may also worship, is allowed. But these people, absolutely not. Just nothing exists, and it is only the sole proprietorship. The world, the whole universe, is but a sole proprietorship and not a closed community from other forces. We put it like this: there is none beside him. That is very important. And if you're going to learn Kabbalah, you gradually go with the Kabbalah, with what we do with Zohar and with Ari. All else will, as it were, disappear. All the resistance, all the other forces which separate you now from the one creative force will then disappear, as it were, be dissolved. You're allowed to keep your religion, etc., but what is the Torah, the 5 books of Moses. Why should we use something else? Learn Zohar and not the holiest of the holiest. The point is that the Torah, the 5 books of Moses, were written in code language, such that one cannot decipher it. Of course, there are all kinds of decipherment, just the whole world sees it in some different way, such as morality, for example. Christians see it also, which is also have as a basis the Torah. Muslims exactly the same. Torah, and on top of it is the Quran, and with the Christians is the New Testament, but for both the foundation is the Torah. It's absolutely so. And each has its own interpretation and is also given to them from above, what is similar in strength with the roots, with their spiritual root of their nation, for example. We speak not of nations, of course. There is such a thing as root of a nation, but of course each soul has its own personal root, eventually. But we have always said there is general and specific, inner and outer. Everything consists of inner and outer, and everything exists in the general and the particular. So each nation has its own spiritual root, for example. All come from the same root, while each representative of that particular nation definitely has his own unique soul. So special in general, always these two have these two aspects. So inward, outward, everything is made of. Everything that exists in himself has inner aspect and outer aspect, general and special. Always remember that. If you truly imprint this in yourself, you will make fewer mistakes or even no mistakes, because sometimes there is talk about the general and you think there is talk about special, and then you get confused. And it will not be told to you whether we are talking about the general or the particular. You must recognize about what is spoken. You must do work within you so that you know that now he talks about the general aspect or outward aspect. This is very important. In this regard, the Torah of Moses is in most of everything, but all the interpretations given in the world of the 5 books of Moses, also they of course have their reasons, are also given from above to humanity. But the innermost interpretation, the innermost representation of what is written in the absolutely coded language in the Torah is the Zohar. The book of Zohar, the 20 books, is nothing other than the display of the spiritual of the laws of the universe in the strongest language, in the language of the Creator himself, what man is capable of, was, is, and will be until the arrival, just before the coming of the Messiah, the Mashiach. For we absolutely cannot understand something of the Torah of the 5 books of Moses. I say to you, no one understands a word of it. Nobody, absolutely not. Even if you take the traditional rabbis, this also applies to them. In about 1100, there was a rabbi who has written about the Torah, and they say that is for me the Torah because they also do not understand anything. Know that they do not understand. The Torah is absolutely inaccessible. All commentaries, there are vast commentaries in the Torah, all describe it in different ways. It's absolutely sacred as well, but at what level? That worked fine until our time. All these commentaries could, to some extent, help man. What does help mean? It means bring them to the experience of the spiritual, experiencing his root, and guide them to their own root, to his own fulfillment. In our time, absolutely is no longer any way to get us out of our selfish desires, our low state. Earlier generations were closer to the beginning. were a little closer to the light. But on the other hand, they were more primitive. Each subsequent generation, another generation, which is always a product of that which had been there. Look in our time. In our time, we see the computers. Anyone born after 1980 does not have to learn to deal with computers, is officially investigated. It's called a digital native. Just as Dutch to you is your native language, similar in the spiritual, we are already the generation that comes closer to the final end. We are a product of all generations, also on spiritual terrain, and therefore for us is nothing. Nothing can help us anymore from the most powerful product, the finest product of everything, the best, the very best that there could ever be. That is Zohar. There is nothing higher than Zohar, and will be until the coming of the Messiah, the Mashiach. That's what I want to learn with you, and not wait as all kinds of modern Kabbalists, great Kabbalists, do. They cannot be compared to me, but they all say no. First give a little of this and then a little of that, and gradually, life is precious. You have to give it right away, the best of the best. Give directly. Of course, not directly. First prepare. Make yourself receptive. So that is the Zohar. The Zohar is a commentary. They give commentary, but it is a reflection of what is in the books of Moses. So the 5 books of Moses, which is what we're going to do, is all the Zohar. These 5 books is a representative thereof. Spiritual part, upper part, incredible, absolutely. Incredible what we are going to touch. Absolutely incredible. I studied everything, and this was forgotten. No one could see it, and that's the Zohar. There's also, for example, a short comment on Shir HaSharim, the Song of Songs. Canticles is something that is absolutely incomprehensible. It is something that is absolutely Kabbalistic, the supreme, and we're going to do that a little. And that is also the commentary of the Zohar. That is the relationship between the Torah and the Zohar. Why should we still do Etz Chaim, the tree of life of Ari? What is the tree of life of Ari? When the Zohar was written, Shimon was in the 3rd century. Whatever science says, 13th century, in the 13th century it emerged, is not of interest to us. The eternal is timeless, absolutely. The whole idea is that we will experience what is timeless. Timeless that we do not, but will come. Ari. Ari Etz Chaim. Zohar. Nobody could understand Zohar. It is not that only Ari. That Ari was the first who could understood the Zohar. Experience, of course. There were great ones before him who could. There were, for example, Rambam and others, all great ones who understood that, but no one was given permission from above to write it down for us. For us, as far for how could we see the salvation? That salvation exists, if not the Ari had described it all in his book. So to him it was given from above in about 1570, and he only gave 2 years' teachings, and in those 2 years he has entrusted one of his students, Chaim Vital, to put it on paper. He himself did not write a word, has just passed through with his mouth. The language is Chaim Vital wrote it down after the death of Ari. But that is the most powerful language. Zohar was written in the language, a bit of an allegorical language. Of course, it is not an allegory, but it brings the human feeling. There is the talk about, for example, water and fire, that kind of things that we will all learn with the commentary of Sulam. A third person, we all learn what is written in the Torah. We will experience what it all is. Once again, the Torah we leave for now, but not that we leave Torah. In the Zohar itself are all verses from the 5 books of Moses. In the Zohar, which is written in Aramaic, there are also the verses of the Torah. For example, you read a verse, and then they will tell you what forces they are, and what that all is in the universe, how it works. But Ari has it all, been dealing with all this in scheme, worlds. He systematized all, and that was done in such a great way in which, with the structurizing, the child was not thrown out with the bathwater. The original powers of the universe are preserved, and you feel it. You'll start feeling what it all is. That is the strongest with Zohar. Then we have the Etz Chaim, which is the most powerful book. Consists of 2 parts from Ari, and precisely this book was hidden from mankind because there are also other books of Ari, and they were known. But this book he also forbid even to Chaim Vital, his only pupil. He had forbidden for this book to teach this doctrine to others. And he also said why. Vital should not pass it further. Can you imagine how strange it was? While Ari had given 2 years teaching in Sfat, a city in northern Israel, to the creme de la creme, to Kabbalists in this city, all rabbis, and he said, they do not understand a word of what I say. Of course, they understand, but not to that extent. It would get distorted for the later generation, and therefore he said only to Vital that he could write it down, but do not publish. Why was that? A Kabbalist never works only for this time, because we live in a continuous process, not only now, but also in the distant future. You will swim, as it were, in the forces of time. For you, time will also get another meaning. You're not only here, like most people do, there is no way out here. Consciously, you should not, or you should do it. Consciously, you should do it. Reason, not with reason, but without alcohol or drugs, you're going to experience. The desire disappears. You do not have to touch it anymore. It's like you already have the taste. You do not have to force yourself to stay off of it. It's like you've had it already. It's amazing. You will also experience, because you already have the taste, all those flavors are already in you. You no longer need to get a feeling that you come somewhere else. You do not have to use alcohol or drugs. Of course, they experience that as well. They also get somewhere else, but it is temporary. It is not conscious. It is misery. Consciously, you must do it. Experience it. You will experience without alcohol or drugs is very special, because you use your energy for something else, something even tastier. Zohar and Ari will bring us something so tasty, our life will get an absolutely new dimension. For everyone, you just have to want it. It has nothing to do with it. You look at the Hebrew letters and you do not understand, absolutely not necessary. You do not have to think. Do not look at those strange letters and think, what should I do with it? Absolutely not necessary. You will see that playfully we come. Why is that so? Because this time is a time that is close to this time is a time that is close to the final corrections. And it is also written that there comes a time when all flesh shall see the Creator. All flesh shall see the Creator. What does it mean, all flesh shall see the Creator? Why is it not written that every soul will see the Creator? Why flesh? Flesh still going down the tubes decomposes. Why is it written there, all flesh shall see you? You can experience the spiritual while sitting in the body. And why? This is also an answer to all those who try to understand spiritual things with their heads. Head is no flesh, is mind. There is still no flesh. It means that you, flesh, begins within you, that part of your body to the middle, which is your flesh, means your heart. You're going to experience the spiritual and not with your head. There comes a time in life of every one of you, that we're going to do something. Maybe not for everyone, but there will be those who will also start giving courses, or others might write books. Why not? Soon, with everyone comes a particular desire to do something, not just for yourself. Of course, you have your own development is also very important, but also that you will want to share it with others via books or whatever. At work, you're going to tell, it does not matter what you do. Others will understand, the soul understands. You're going to pass something in this way that also others will benefit from it. Writing books, whatever you want, it is your own work to do. Educate yourself spiritually and try also to give to others. Etz Chaim. We said Etz Chaim, the tree of life, is written, and we're going to use that as the second part of our lesson. And Etz Chaim was written in modern language. Modern, 1570, but the language is, every word is, it is the language of the Spirit, and we are also going to deal with that. Direct, do that, and Tes, Talmud Eser Sfirot. The teachings of the 10 Sfirot as reference of Yehuda Ashlak. And that's the same Yehuda Ashlak, the author who also wrote the commentary to the Zohar. The same person. We now also have the commentary in Hebrew from Sulam, means ladder. which is also written by that third person. So Yehuda Ashlag, he died sometime in 1955 in our time. They say that it was all one soul, incarnation of one soul. The author of Zohar, Shimon Bar Yochai, and in 1534 to 1572 Ari lived, and Ari was also the incarnation of the soul of Shimon. And the latter is Yehuda Ashlag, was the same soul. But the third appearance of this soul, furthermore, it has not been necessary. And those three came. The third has actually added nothing. He applied the language and the concepts of the last generations, applied it to our generation until the coming of the Messiah. Who knows, maybe there will be someone else. But really there is no need. Everything is in it. I mean, there is no need to chew out even more. And we see in this generation, the Kabbalists in the world, they try to chew out to the people. Also in America and in Israel, they're busy with again the same articles, all secondary materials. Later they might, but you have to give the man a chance. To me, it is given to us to give the best of the best, of course, to the extent that I understand. But the sources are the best of the best. That's what I mean. And not that he is the best teacher. And with that, we will score, absolutely. I live in it. It gives me meaning to life. This brings me life, the true life. Once you taste of what life is, then you find that nice or pretty. But once you taste it, if it is just your little finger, that you touch the sacred, which is what we do, just touch with the little pinky, then you already say only that little something that already gives you so much life that everything else said politely is rubbish. Absolutely. With all these achievements, has all been necessary, absolutely necessary, but is 0.0 compared to what we can experience of the true reality. Not the world, our world, which is all in our world. Nothing in our world as you experience it is based on truth. It is, of course, necessary, all necessary. All kinds of social relationships are all necessary. But as long as these social relations, will not be built on love, unconditional love, misery will prevail. Because misery is not of the world. We call that misery by inability to love unconditionally. It is nothing else. It's either choke or swallow. It's I want, I hate, I have absolutely no interest in another. What should I do with the other person? And yet, if you want to live, then you have to love unconditionally. If that person loves you, does not matter. It is not ours. It is, and only then mankind gets fulfillment, perfection, happiness, all that. This will we learn, and of course you start with yourself. You should not think that this is somewhere outside. That is wrong. So those are Zohar. Shimon, Shimon, author of the Zohar, and Ari, the author of the Tree of Life, and other books, but this is the most important, the core. And Tess from Yehuda Ashlag, the last. All three were from above, given permission to put it all on paper in the wording so that we can digest it. Just a man of our world that we can work with it, therefore we can be thankful that it remains, existing despite the time, because they all have it. Chaim Vital, the author of Zohar, has written Zohar, and then the Zohar disappears. No one knew where the Zohar was. It disappeared. No one had a copy of the Zohar because nobody was ready. The generation was not yet eligible. We are the first generation when the Zohar means the Creator Himself, reveals itself to humanity, to everybody in our generation, and that is why we talk about Zohar. Can you imagine what we'll do is indescribable. And in 1735 there was a great Kabbalist who came to the Netherlands, and 8 years of his life he lived here. He could not even dream that there would ever be learned in Amsterdam Zohar. He was exiled, excommunicated, and he was a liberator of the Jews from all misery. He came to Amsterdam. It was forbidden for him to learn Kabbalah, to study, or to give it to others. And somewhere there must still be something, the writings that his angel, his root, has given to him for the future of humanity. This is also hidden somewhere, yet. All works of Kabbalah are hidden. Why is that so? It is a reflection of the fact that the spiritual is also hidden from us. The light is hidden from us, and that is why these works are hidden from us. The Zohar was also buried somewhere, and only in the 19th century it appeared, the generation before us, who could already do something with it, which had already been awakened for it. Then came Ari, and Ari was written no word himself. Also Shimon had not written the word. He also has not written Zohar. His school, those are the 10 greatest of his generation, and he sat for 13 years in a cave with his son and others and came to the cave to learn, but one of his best pupils put it all on paper in that form, that it is a bit hidden form, because otherwise the language of the spirit of Shimon is so sharp, so powerful that people could not stand it. You understand? Even the good is hard to. You have to have strength to handle what is good. We could enjoy so much and so long, but it's not in our power, and therefore we cannot handle much pleasure. We would like to put the world in us, but we do not have the strength. So it is with the spiritual, you have to slowly, gradually liberate yourself, make transparent from the inside to be able to handle the light, the good, and that is something we are going to do with the Zohar. No higher, no better, no more powerful remedy exists than what we'll use. No more powerful way exists in the world that can bring man on a very fast way to his destination. The one that comes with a horse. There's no rush. Another takes the train or a car, and again another takes a plane. We take the most powerful means of transport which goes millions of miles per second. It's all what you choose for. And I do not want to waste a second, and I want, but it is given to me to also give to you, so that we do not waste time, and thus we shall give glory to the Creator. I will thus ensure that you will achieve success in your journey, and that's a huge compliment to the plan of creation, to the whole creative power. Therefore, we do it. These are two works that we will deal with, and with Ari, it was exactly the same. He had also written not a word, and it was Chaim Vital who had written all of that. Etz Chaim. And some writings, except Etz Chaim, became known earlier. That was not so holy, but this book, Etz Chaim, was only after Vital's death, buried together with him, because no one at that time, around 1570, was allowed to learn it. Not yet. It was already the time to learn Zohar. No prohibition from the top, and there is also no longer prohibition after the time of Ari. It was not forbidden for people under 40 years to learn Kabbalah. From 9 years, someone can already start with Kabbalah. So all these books were buried together with Chaim Vital, the person who put Etz Chaim on paper. Buried, and in the next generation, his son has it excavated. Still later, more excavations, where all that was found in the grave of Chaim Vital. What was given to mankind is buried, because if the man in his time buries it, it means that his generation cannot handle it, and then it should be buried. Yehuda Ashlag is in our time, a man who was born in 1895 and deceased in 1955. Also, he had written certain things, and before was the great Rabbi in Amsterdam, a Lurianic Kabbalist, because we only speak about Lurianic Kabbalah. All other Kabbalah does not exist for me, all of which is distorted to me. People who want to know, and Ramchal has also written, was also a divine person. He also had a briefcase with many writings, revelations, of course, nothing else than Ari, but ordinary things, nothing extra but finer, for this generation, more detailed, and that too was buried. The Portuguese library of the Portuguese synagogue in Amsterdam has many rare and important works, but they do not know. By Zohar, we can learn ourselves. With Ari, everyone who comes through it will also pick up certain gifts. There will awaken something in us. It is not anything special that a man must be born that way. All of the religious, you must to develop in yourself. If you deal with the spiritual, if you keep dripping onto the stone breaks down. So it is with us. If you desire for it, if you stay to rather die than live without fulfillment, then you will receive certain gifts. Also, I've received this, not mine. It was given to me. You have to work on yourself, cleanse yourself more and more, and you will receive it. It's not from you. Also, everything I say is not mine. Remember that. Everything that was previously forbidden, you have to dig up. But the great rabbi who lived here in Amsterdam is not a teacher for you. He has many works, but still, we cannot learn Kabbalah from this rabbi. You must already know Kabbalah of Ari. If you, for example, are illiterate, you know nothing of counting, you've had no school, how can you then multiply? And other things you cannot do either, no mathematics, etc. So it is here, when you first learn Ari, then you can learn the works of this great rabbi. Then you will understand that they all speak about the same thing, but from different angles. Therefore, these two sources, because also the great rabbi and Ashlag, they all learned from Ari. All that Kabbalah is from Ari. And therefore, we are going to learn from Ari and the Zohar for the first lesson. It is important that you not resist and that you do not try with your own intellect to make all kinds of images. Do not try to understand it intellectually. It is not necessary. It's just experiencing. It is not necessary that you draw certain conclusions. That does not help you. That is a stumbling block and will just play tricks on you. Do not do that. Just experience and do not think. I do not understand. If you do not understand, of course, you might ask what it says, but for the rest, experience it. Try to go along. Try yourself. Do not say, I do not understand. For example, it always comes to Israel. Understand that it is not about the state of Israel. The whole salvation of humanity depends on Israel. Also, Jesus said, salvation comes from the Jews. What did he mean by that? Keter, Chochmah, the upper Sfirot. Keter and Chochmah, that is Israel, and Binah, Ze'ah, and Malchut are the forces of the nations, of the world. So you must see it. You understand. Therefore, the Creator, only Zohar deals. The Torah of Moses only speaks of Israel, means the altruistic forces in man. To these speaks the Creator. And then you'll see it will be about Israel, nations, and then you think, I'm Dutch, what should I do with Israel? But of course, the nation also has that property, but if you take Zohar, for example, the second book of Zohar, but everything is in the first book, but there you see when the Torah was received, first, the Jews, but the large crowd went along with the Jews from Egypt, and others came along because everyone was allowed to receive the Torah. It's not just for the Jews. Everyone could go there. Forces came upon also from different sides of humanity, which became also Israel. Because everyone who received the Torah was automatically neutralized. Which belonged to Israel was called automatically Israel. And there were also 5 forces in the nations, mingled too. 5 forces. Also Zohar talks about it. And 5 forces were mixed. Also in this nation, from other nations, from them, qua their spirit, in terms of soul, belong to unclean powers, because so you should see it. The Creator created not only good things, everything is good naturally, but He obviously created this against the other. So good and evil, so that man would choose for the good. Otherwise, we would be like robots. So at some moment came to this nation. Also means the forces of the Keter Chochmah, the spiritual forces of Israel mingled with them of the 5 forces, which, just as Keter and Chochmah, Binah, Ze'ah, and Malchut of the sacred, is also Keter Chochmah, Binah, Ze'ah, and Malchut of the impure forces that the Creator created. So the world. We have seen 2 forces, mercy on the one hand, chassidim, and on the other hand, severity, gvorot, surrounding ourselves with comfort that does not help us, or just keep your eyes closed and everything exists. Similarly, these people mingle with all 5 forces of the unique forces of this nation. We will all learn, and the keter of the impure forces is Amalek. We'll see what forces they are, and of course, in our time, in the history of mankind, we see someone as a Jew, whether he belongs to Israel, and then exhibits no mercy, and he, how to say, misbehaves towards high souls with a high destiny. That means then you have to shake his genealogical tree, because maybe Amalek or another of these 5 sort of impure forces may fall out of it. Remember, because of course with them also multiplied, mixed with them were also the forces of impure forces. And you can always see also in Israel, if anyone thinks only about himself, then there is something wrong in his family. As a Jew, if something is wrong in his family, means that something is also mixed in him of those 5 forces of unclean. Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, Malchut. Because one opposite the other the Creator created. And it does not mean that the other force, that you must destroy it or so. Absolutely not. You should be on top of it, and you have to get out. In yourself, do the true work with which you overcome the unclean forces. Overcome, but not destroy. Also, these impure forces, as we call it, Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, Malchut, of the impure worlds. 4 worlds we have: clean worlds, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah, pure worlds, and opposite. He, the Creator, created 4 worlds that too. We call that klipot, impure forces, not as unclean. Unclean is not the right word. Therefore, if we're going to learn this in the language of the Creator, we too will slowly take over important concepts in the language itself. So we use, instead of impure forces, klipot. And then we will know that klipot, klipa, for example, are impure forces. While for an Israeli it is often difficult because klipa is shell for them. We will see why. Because shell, skin, is protection for a fruit. Always peel protects the fruit. So it is with klipa, impure force protects pure force. And not that we say impure force you should not have. The devil we do not want. We just want to be good guys. And hallelujah. No hallelujah. Hallelujah is only when you connect that pure force with the unclean force. You use the unclean force as it is because you abuse those powers, but you must overcome it and connect to the Keter and Chochma, and below is the Bina, Ze'ai, and Malchut. It's all Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, and Malchut. All from pure worlds, and against it we have on the left 2, Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, and Malchut, of impure forces. And placed between those 2 is man. See drawing in lesson 45 in the written materials. Holy forces means giving, the property of giving, altruistic, good, and opposite. He also put the impure forces. And there is again Keter, Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, Malchut, of the impure forces of the left line. And again, Atzilut, Bria, Yetzirah, and Asiyah. Not the whole Atzilut. We said Atzilut is completely pure forces. It is still that it's a bit lower, because part of Atzilut, the lower part of it, is already, as it were, not perfect by certain sin. That Keter, the Chochma, Bina, Ze'ai, Malchut, and in between it is so that is why we feel pulled from all sides to the left or to the right. Well, I'll do it right. Well, I'll do it bad. And it takes a while until man will observe the spiritual, and then gradually he chooses each time. He does work. He will learn in Zohar very quickly how this interaction takes place, how and in which way we can transform so that thereby we can come to fulfillment. That's how it is. A higher must always make himself smaller. Why? That way he can receive. If you can dissolve yourself, as it were, become an embryo, and thus in that extent of your comprehension, even when you do not comprehend it in words, in mind, but with certain powers. I can grasp it and then I'll get it down to here for myself. But everyone who was in connection with me automatically receives only when you remain connected and want to receive that. But once you start to doubt, those doubts come from the unclean side. It does not mean it is bad, but when you're in the lesson, you should only try as much as possible to come to your sacred side and have absolutely no doubt in yourself. Absolutely no doubt, because it comes from the top down. And you only need to receive. Receive. But the funny thing is, we do not want to receive. Everything is there. Bread, everything is there. It comes from above, and nothing else. We'll see that it all is, but remember, what you do not fight, do not try to reason with your mind. You only focus on one side. If everyone has aimed his arrow at what we read and desire inside that brings you to your fulfillment, then you will definitely receive. Whereby not only receive what is to receive, The power from here is such that it will pierce you. Also important is you must overcome your fear for why you start doubting. Why do you resist? Because you have the fear. Fear also for the good. You've built something. Your ego is your strength. You can build an armor around you that, of course, is your strength. You should know that nothing is taken away from you. But you acquire an additional dimension of yourself from the light of Zohar and Ari that penetrates you, and you're going to experience aspects of your inner. Once they were dead, but by Zohar and Ari, they come to life. That is the purpose of the entire study, that we will gradually come to life in all aspects. We feel, and suddenly you sit down and you feel that everything is alive. Slowly, step by step, and also to us it will step by step be revealed, where we will bring out great powers. This we will experience innerly with our study. Please refer to drawing 45 in the written materials, the two parallel systems of the spiritual worlds and the universe coming from one source, the only creative power, according to the law, the one opposite the other, created by the Creator.